current men's world number 150 Stan Wawrinka has been on the scene for the better part of 2 decades, so it's safe to say he has a front-seat view of arguably the most competitive era of men's tennis, playing with 3 of the best to ever do it. Today, we're discussing Wawrinka's recent words on Roger Federer, plus a hilarious incident with a young gun Jannik Sinner, so stay right where you are. First up, Stan has engaged in a little lighthearted online banter with Novak. Serbia took on Switzerland last Friday in what was the final group game in Group C at the World Cup. Of course, there are a few players on the tour who hail from both nations, at least 2 of the greatest players ever, Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. Shortly before the game kicked off, Djokovic took to Instagram to ham up the rivalry between the 2 nations, posting an update to his stories with a photo of the upcoming game, whilst also tagging both Roger and Stan Wawrinka. He also asked both men, "Are you ready?" And Stan himself was sharing Novak's story to his own account with the message, "Always ready." And it turns out that Stan and Roger had the last laugh, as Switzerland ran out 3-2 winners in a thrilling encounter with goals from their talismanic former Liverpool man, Xherdan Shaqiri, Monaco striker Breel Embolo, and the winning goal coming from Nottingham Forest midfielder Remo Freuler. Serbia were in the game for the whole 90 minutes, having hit back twice in the first half via Fulham target man Aleksandar Mitrovic and Dusan Vlahovic, who plies his trade in Serie A with Juventus. Stan then posted another video of himself painting a Swiss flag on the head of his health and performance specialist, Croatian Dario Novak, saying, "Making sure my team support," along with 3 Swiss flag emojis. Who is your World Cup team? Next up, Stan's been detailing that 2014 exchange with the Federers. Stay tuned. You probably remember an incident between Stan Wawrinka and Roger Federer's wife, Mirka, from back in 2014. It took place at the ATP Finals in London when the pair were engaged in a tense contest which was ultimately won by Roger. Stan had reacted badly to what he saw as unsportsmanlike conduct from Mrs. Federer, accusing her of distracting him every time he went to the end, where she was sitting, to serve. Her antics prompted Wawrinka to complain to the umpire, but Mirka fired back, calling Stan a crybaby. Wawrinka then complained that she had done the same thing at Wimbledon, calling her actions unbearable. He's recently revisited the incident in an interview earlier this month, where he explained that the whole incident was very tense right after the semifinal, whilst adding that he was thankful there were no TV cameras behind the scenes back then. Stan explained that he had to figure out how to create a bit of distance between himself and what had happened, before also adding that he had to be careful not to forget everything we've been through together and find a way to get over it, and we're glad calmer heads prevailed. If not, it almost certainly would have affected their Davis Cup performance a few weeks later, as both Fed and Stan were in scintillating form to claim the trophy on behalf of their native Switzerland at the expense of the French. Do you guys remember this spat? Nicolas Lepenti has been discussing Federer now. In the wake of his retirement, plenty of stars from around the sport of tennis have come out and explained just what Roger meant to them, one of whom is Ecuadorian former pro Nicolas Lepenti. Speaking on the Craig Shapiro Tennis podcast early this week, Lepenti revealed just what it was like to play against Federer, explaining that it could often be soul-destroying, as you would play what you thought was a good shot only to face an even better one coming back at you, and also admitting it was difficult to find a weak spot. Lepenti then described Fed as being awesome in all aspects, saying that he was just as good in the locker room as he was on the court. Apparently, he would often be in the middle of any practical jokes that were going on. Lepenti also explained that what he did for tennis was so amazing, and even suggested that the likes of Federer will never be seen again. Describing his retirement night at the Laver Cup back in September, Lepenti said it was huge, as the whole stadium was reduced to tears. Nicolas also reminisced of a young Roger Federer when he, Lepenti, was still better than him when they played doubles at Halle in 2000, saying that he was still coming up. "In 2000, I was up there, and he was probably number 30 in the world, and he was coming up. He was this young kid from Switzerland playing great tennis." So what did Stan have to say about his relationship with Fed over the course of his career? Well, being one of the greatest players to ever play the game means you get plenty of respect from your fellow pros, not least the ones who hail from the same country as you. And this is exactly what Roger Federer has experienced recently, as Stan Wawrinka spoke out about just what Roger Federer meant to him and his career. Speaking last week, Stan explained that when he first arrived onto the scene, Roger was already the king, suggesting that he acted like an older brother to him. He revealed how he would regularly be around Roger, adding, "We often trained together and it helped me a lot. I had the honor and the good fortune of being able to compare myself with him him both in training and during tournaments. In the Davis Cup, we shared many wonderful moments. Stan then said that nowadays the pair are very close, full friends, admitting that he owes the legendary Federer a lot. Of course, Roger retired earlier this year and appeared for his final time partnered with his longtime rival, Rafael Nadal, in the Laver Cup. For men like Wawrinka, a fully fledged champion in his own right who won 3 majors over the course of his career, being able to practice day in day out with someone of the caliber of Federer was always going to be hugely beneficial. And at just 37 years old, it will be interesting to see how much more of Stan Wawrinka we see on the tour. Next up, Stan has also credited Roger with his Olympics and Davis Cup wins. In some team sports, it often pays to have better players than you on your team. Just look at the 1986 Argentina team with Diego Maradona, for example. But this doesn't often extend to sports like tennis, in what is essentially a sport you play alone. That is, until you turn up at the Olympics or Davis Cup, where players take part on behalf of their countries. And Wawrinka has recently acknowledged what Federer did for him over the course of his career, as they were paired together at the Davis Cup in 2008, 2011, 2012, and 2014, as well as the Olympics in 2008, where they won the gold in the doubles. Wawrinka, who appeared to acknowledge that Federer was the one doing most of the legwork, said, "I owe him a lot in my career. There was something positive. I grew up and improved thanks to him. He helped me a lot. Thanks to him, I won the Olympic Games and the Davis Cup. These are 2 of the biggest headlines of my career." It would be interesting to see if Stan Wawrinka would have won those medals if Roger Federer had never existed. But something tells us that the answer to that musing is almost certainly a resounding no. Do you guys agree with Stan? Let us know below. And finally, a pretty hilarious incident involving Jannik Sinner. Stay tuned. Stan Wawrinka recently paired up with Jannik Sinner to get a quick practice in at the Monte Carlo Country Club in the south of France, where coaches Magnus Norman and Darren Cahill were running the rule over their star pupils. Shortly after this practice wrapped, Stan ordered the young Italian to carry his bags, taking advantage of his status as being the more senior player. He said, "Be careful with my nice Yonex bags, please. Please take care of it, please." Jannik quickly shot back, explaining that the bag was not even heavy, but Wawrinka was on hand to explain that he had many bags for the current world number 15, in a hilarious lighthearted exchange which saw Sinner refer to the Swiss as Stan the Man. Of course, Sinner was happy to give his mate a hand, and it is nice to see sportsmen actually still carrying their own equipment. Lord knows there are plenty of global superstars who wouldn't dream of carrying their own practice stuff, so props to these 2 for still getting after it and then carrying their own gear. What did you guys make of the funny video? As usual, thanks for dropping in on us today, and remember to tune in again next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a big favor by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on more great content in the future. Bye guys!